This is an example from Los Angeles going from the airport into Hollywood, which is in the middle of the rush hour. So if you're familiar with the traffic there, it's really bad. And essentially what happened is that Google said that's going to be 1 hour and 10 minutes, and Waze said that it's going to be 23 minutes. Part of it is the number of alternative roads. Part of it is the fact that the street level is wide and you can actually drive there. But essentially, the idea is that we are able to save significant amount of time to the drivers every time. Now, let me start with something else. When we started with a blank page, so there was no map. And actually, the map was created by the drivers. So when you are using the application, the map that you see there was actually created by the users. And the way that it works is the following. When the first driver used the application, we actually collected the GPS from the device itself. So when you drive with the application, we collect the location every second, and we kind of create a trace of where you've been. And when we're starting to collect a lot of those, we're starting to get something that looks like a map. And if I will tell you that that thing is a traffic circle, it looks like a traffic circle. And if you're familiar with Tel Aviv area, then this is Kikar Hamdina. And you can see the differences even between main road and street level. You can see, and this is what the system does automatically. We generate out of that a road map or a road grid that is not a complete map, but it definitely reflects how people are using the roadways. And the next thing that we are doing, we actually enable the community to provide us with street names and with points of interest and with a map editing tool that they can actually correct the map. So the whole map, and by the way, today we have nearly 100,000 map editors, so people that are actually going and editing the maps and creating additional value into this, to an extent like the Wikipedia of the drivers. And essentially, when we're looking at that, we started from a blank page. The system and the community and the network actually created the entire map. And then the more users that are coming, the map is becoming better and better and better. At this phase, obviously, if we will see someone that is driving slow, we can actually figure out that there is a traffic jam. Because we look at this data in real time, we can even tell the difference between someone that is stuck in traffic jam versus someone that is pulling into a gas station or something like that. The pattern of the GPS is different. And when we see a lot of those, then we can figure out exactly what's going on the roadways. We actually, in Israel, knows everything that is going on the roadways. Even, during the rush hours, 1 out of 5 drivers are using Waze. Which means if there is, a traffic jams of 10 vehicles, probably 2 of them are using Waze, and we already know that. If there is any accident, then we know the exact location of that faster and sooner than anyone else. And we know everything that is going on the roadways, and able to help people to avoid traffic jams or find the fastest route pretty much every time. One thing that I would like to show you here is actually so 2 things. One is the video is how map is being created, and it's actually very interesting. It's showing different places in Eastern Europe that the map was created. It will zoom in. You can see the date at the bottom of the page. We launched this service globally in November 2009, and so it took us about 6 months or so for places like Bratislava or Prague or different places for the map to become good enough that people starting using that continuously. So this is the center area of Bratislava, and you can see that the map is being created slowly, piece after piece, road after road, and as soon as more people are driving, then the map is kind of automatically improving itself until it gets to the level that it's good enough, and from this point on, it's becoming more and more significant. What you can see on the side, the road compactor, is actually what happens when you drive someplace that no one drove before. So if no one drove before, we don't have this road on the map, and then your avatar changes into a road compactor, and you actually pave the road behind you as you drive. Anyone at the audience actually had the experience of paving new roads? So there is one here, and obviously great. So you know, it's kind of fulfilling a childhood dream that you can actually have an opportunity to pave a road, right? And I remember at the early days that you know, when very few roads were on the map, and you know, I was driving, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the map and I can see a street that is not on the map, and obviously I'm going right into the street in order to pave that road. And because I know how the system works, then I would be going back and forth, and in order for the system to learn that, I would do that 3 times, and then I would start going into one, you know, each and every intersection at a time, in order to make sure that the system learns all the turn restrictions. At the beginning it was like that, but after a little while, more and more people actually, you know, joined in order to create more and more data, and it actually was created mainly by the users. And in most places, we simply start with a blank page. In Israel, we started with a blank page. In most places, we started with a blank page. One of the things that we enable the users is actually with a map editing tool. We create a tool for, I would call that maybe enthusiastic amateurs. So not GIS, not map makers, not professional, amateurs that wants to contribute what they know into the map. And this is, by the way, an example in Kuala Lumpur, and there are like 2 million users in Kuala Lumpur, or in Malaysia in general. And when you consider the fact that there are no business relationship or any relationship between Israel and Malaysia, it's pretty surprising. And so essentially it's a map editing tool. You can change the road attributes, you can add points of interest, you can do pretty much anything. Full control of the map by the community. And one of the things that it's raised the interest is, okay, so, you know, if we are not controlling the map, then how do you empower the community on one hand, but also what if if you give them full control? And a very interesting part of it is crowdsourcing issues. So, you know, what prevents me of going into the map editing tool and change road number 1 into Uri Levine Boulevard? So number 1, I can't. I don't have enough credibility and enough level to do that. And if I would be able, then obviously everyone knows that it's not the case, and they will override that in no time. What I can do is probably call the driveway to my parking lot, I can probably call that Uri Levine Boulevard, because I drove there more than anyone else, and probably no one cares, right? No one even knows that there is no name for a driveway. Right? In general, if no one went there, it's not even on the map. So if there is you know, a small place that no one went there with Waze, it's not on the map. And the power of the crowdsourcing is that where people care and where people are available and they do care, it's becoming significantly better than anything else. And if they don't care, it's not even there. And this is the crowdsourcing. Some, you know, trusting the community is very important for us. Essentially, we empower them, we give them the tool, but we do not validate what they do. So even if you would report that there is an accident, we don't know if the accident is actually there. You drive with the application, report that there is an accident, we don't know if the accident is actually there. What we do know is that the next driver is going to get a warning that be careful, I had an accident ahead of you, and if it's not there, they would say it's not there. And so we empower the community to do all that. Just an example of you know, traffic information and traffic flow in multiple metropolitan areas in a few places, and what we can see is I think LA on the left, and Kuala Lumpur, Sao Paulo, and Paris. During the night, pretty much nothing going on in there. But you know, as soon as rush hour was starting to take off, and then the rest of the day, radar, traffic jams, blue are police reports, and so forth. And essentially, we have better traffic information in most of the major metropolitan places in the world. Now, this leads us to a lot of thoughts of what can be done with that, and it's a lot of things that can be done with that. Just think of, for example, what if I can go into the mayor of Jerusalem and tell him what's the wait time to make a left turn in each and every traffic light in the city, every day of the week, every hour of the day, even in real time. And all they have to do is recalibrate the traffic control system. And we're starting to do that in multiple places, part of it is this information actually creates the value of the Waze drivers to all the drivers. And in addition, you can do better planning, do better transportation planning, better urban planning, and actually optimize the transportation system of a metropolitan area, of a country, of everywhere. One of the questions that I'm being asked is what we are doing in the car industry, and the most interesting approach is this approach. It's a mirrored approach. So the application is actually running on the smartphone, on the iPhone, or on the Android phone, but it's connected to a large display that is in the middle of the dashboard, and you actually can operate the application from the dashboard, even though that it's running on the smartphone. U.S. market is going into this direction more and more. Europeans still vertically still out, so it's unclear whether or not this is what they will be implementing. By the way, this is a Honda, and there are Pioneers, there are Clarion's devices, there are different devices that are starting to enable that. In our perspective, when we are doing something like that, then we have more usage. So people are using the application more frequent, even though that today average time or average usage is about 17 times a month. With that, you probably would be using that every drive. For us, it's more usage, which we care about. So let me summarize maybe the Waze story in the following fashion. 12 years ago, there was no Wikipedia. Today, there is no Britannica. Now, in the world of map making, there are only 4 players. There is Nokia through an acquisition of Navteq, there is TomTom through an acquisition of TeleAtlas, there is Google, and there is Waze. And the last two kind of don't care how much it costs to maintain the map data as it is. In the Google case, because they have so much money that they actually don't care. And in our case, that we empower the community, we have a very efficient method of keeping the map fresh. If you would ask me, that means that in 12 years, the Navteq and Nokia, or Navteq and TeleAtlas would not be there. I would say that we already started 6 years ago. So they have probably less of a journey, and 15% of the drive time that we can reduce for the Waze users. I think that puts us in a position that we actually generate a lot of value to the drivers. So just before I came on stage, I had the technician put the earpiece on me, and he told me, thank you, thank you, thank you. And there is nothing more rewarding than building something that people actually do. What exactly is the police work? And then they said, okay, our role is to make sure that people are driving slower and safer in places that we think is important. And we said, this is exactly what we do, right? Because when people report that there is a speed trap, then other people are driving slower and safer. Police were driving and saying, police, 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 and the next driver would say, not there, not there, not there, not there. And then they realized that this one is not going to work either. And then the next thing that they realized that they're actually setting up their traps and invoking Waze and finding and waiting to be detected, and then they move to the next place, and this happens pretty frequent. In terms of using the data, in some cases, yes. So, for example, we empower them, or we enable them to provide us information about roadblocks. So when President Obama was visiting here and there were some roads that were closed, we were able to close them on the Waze application, so no one is actually, or the Waze application is not going to route people through there. They're also looking into traffic jams and into accidents in order to get the exact information. Because if you're driving someplace and you see an accident, you would call the police and you will tell them that there is an accident, but you are not necessarily able to provide the exact location. And the Waze is actually providing the exact location of where the issue is. what we're doing in terms of traffic is analyzing not only the real time but also the historical traffic patterns. And so the differences could be small, but they might become more significant later. In general, and I agree that it makes sense to use the alternative routes feature in that case. Is look at the alternative routes and figure out, okay, it's going to save me 5 minutes and it's going to cost 15 shekels, and does it worth it, or does worth it in that case. And so of course we have people, you. The way that it works today, because in early days when most of the country is not mapped yet, then every time that you drive in a place that there is no road on the map, then you automatically create a road. In places that the map is nearly complete, then you actually need to say, I'm driving on a new road right now, and you kind of in the reporting you say map issues or something, and then your avatar becomes into the road compactor, and you actually pave the road. As soon as you pave this road, then tomorrow morning this road is going to be available for the rest of the drivers. And so it's being done by the people, by the users, and this is the power of the crowdsourcing. So there are actually two business models that we are implementing. One of them is advertisement on top of the map. And when you're stuck in traffic, for example, you would see promotions that tells you that gas stations down the road is having a discount on fuel, or 1+1 on food and beverages, or whatever it is. The other thing that we are doing in some places is we're starting to sell traffic information. So it could be for the transportation industry, the transportation authorities, that what we have is very valuable information for them, and we sell them. So essentially not, because you're not participating in the way that we expect you to participate. You're not as a motorcycle, at least in Israel, you do not stand in traffic. The application is actually focused on drivers, and theoretically we could have done the same thing for anything that is outdoor, right? I can do that for bicycle riders, I can do that for hikers, I can do that for fishermen, I can do that for horse riding, I can do that for anything that is being done outdoor in the same fashion. But we focus only on drivers. So the first people that started were people that were incentivized by something else. They were people that care about maps, that care about GIS, that cares about GPS, and this is actually where their hobby. And for them, we enable them to make a better use of their hobby. We provided them with the tools that they can actually control their own destiny. And they were the first people that started to drive there. Because for the first driver, there was nothing there, right? What is interesting is that the pace of change was very rapid, even for early drivers. So the first time that you drive from home to the office, you create the road there. And when you're coming back, there is also the road back. Tomorrow morning, it's already going to be on the map. And so the reward or the perception of the map is actually fulfilling itself was very, very fast in many places. But, in general, we probably have much more mistakes than that. We probably have many. So, in general, Waze do not comment on rumors. I would say that newspaper have sold us about 6 or 7 times in the last 6 months or so, and we're still here. And the newspapers are not the buyers. Right? This is the part that has to do with the traffic information that we collect, and when you're using the historical traffic information in order to pre-plan the routes of the school buses, then you can optimize the entire system. You need less buses to do the same schlepping of the kids than without the optimization. So this is something that we hope is going to happen soon in Tel Aviv. Also in Jerusalem, there are some discussions about that. But in general, this is the value of the information that we know that can optimize the entire transportation system. The routes that tourists take are kind of much more expected than the local population. So they are going from top 10 attractions and from one to the other and so forth. And if we can figure out better how long does it take to actually move from one place to another place, and what is the most optimized route. We can actually create road signs or electronic signs for them that will tell them, okay, this is the way to optimize your different points along the tour that you want to take, and this is expected and how long it's going to take you. And by providing people more information on that, you're actually going to optimize the way that they are, that they will figure out, okay, it's going to take us half a day to get there. Let's do something in between. Let's do something that's more attractive. Expecting them to use an application is probably totally wrong. People or tourists do not use local applications, and Waze as an application is focused towards the local people, not the tourists. But taking the information that we collect and actually making the electronic road signs out of that, or telling people that your most optimized route from going from one place to another place is actually doing that the other way around in order to avoid traffic, or in order to spend more time at the things that you want to see versus the things that you don't care about, is probably a better way. What we're doing in terms of searching is we are searching in multiple databases. Which one of them is the right one, we don't know. And usually it's Foursquare. If it's a public place, Foursquare actually have more updated database than anyone else. But we don't know where it is, and so obviously we will take people to wherever the result is going to tell us that this is where it is. So here is the reality, right? This week, we here in Israel, we lost the dream of having an electrical car. But cars that drive by themselves, we have so many of them. It's surprising how many passengers are in Israel. In some other countries, they behave better.